Dear brothers and sisters, the saints in Christ, welcome to a new episode. This is our second and last one in this series regarding like honoring the relics and the positions of the saints. All right. In the previous episode, just I would like to recap with you quickly that there are two ways in the interpreting the Bible. One is correct one, the other one definitely is a wrong and wicked one. The first one is exegesis, which means the critical interpretation of the biblical text to discover its intended meaning. The second one is eisegesis, an interpretation especially of scripture that expressed the interpreter's own ideas rather than the meaning of the text. All right, and we've seen some examples in the previous episode, and we came to the conclusion that to answer or to discover if the thing is correct or not correct is two things. Number one, context, and I would like to remind you again with that proverb: if you take the text out of the context, then you will have what? The cone, which means something like hollow, which is empty thing, not the real thing. All right. And the second thing is what was the application at that time, how people understood it. All right. That's it. If you get those two measurements, like or two like measuring tapes or rulers, then you should. I would say you should be by more than 95% sure whether it is a true thing or a bad thing. All right. So let's now cover today the dogma of relics of the saints. It's a huge, big money source, by the way. It's a huge, it's like floods of money, dollars and like and euros, and hundreds of thousands of Egyptian pounds for this stuff. All right. So straight away they tell you, we honor the saints because the bones of Elisha raised a dead man, which is true. But actually, what is the text and how the generation understood it and applied it? That's it. These are my two, like that. This is the tool. Those two items. This is the way I measure it. So what happened actually is, you can read this in the book of 2 Kings, chapter 13. I'll summarize what the situation was. The situation was at that time that the army of the Israelites, which is the northern state after when they split, were extremely weak because actually they lost a few wars before that, to the extent the army was just the following: 50 people that they can ride horses and fight. Only 50 people, not 50,000, only 50. Also, they had only like 10 chariots, only 10. Not 10,000, by the way. And the people that you can say that they go on foot, they fight, but on the feet, only 10,000. That's it. So it was like a miserable situation, army-wise. So what happened? So when Elisha actually was very sick and close to die, what happened is Joash, that was the king of Israel at the time, he actually went to him, and actually he wept because he saw that Elisha is about to die. So actually he was like a great support. Meanwhile, his army is extremely terribly bad. So what happened at that very time? That Elisha became sick with the illness of which he would die. Then Joash, the king of Israel, came down to him and wept over his face and said, "Oh, my father, the chariots of Israel and their horsemen. And Elisha said to him, while he was sick and about to die, said to him, take a bow and some arrows. Good. So he took, this is the king, say he took himself a bow and some arrows. Then he said to the king of Israel, put your hand on the bow. So he put his hand on it. And Elisha put his hands on the king's hands. And he said, open the east window. This is where the Assyrians, which are the enemies of Israel at the time, were facing. And he opened it. Then Elisha said, shoot. And he shot. And he said, the arrow of the Lord's deliverance and the arrow of deliverance from Syria. For you must strike the Syrians at Afik till you have destroyed them. And actually, if you continue the rest of the chapter, this is exactly what happened. Then Elisha died, all right? And so it was, as they were, some people burying a man, that suddenly they spied a band of raiders, like enemies coming, and they put the man in the tomb of Elisha. And when the man was let down and touched the bones of Elisha, he revived and stood on his feet. So what does it mean, this one? All right. So notice the following. Elisha, before he died, he prophesied that Israel will win the war and will restore its position, like military position, back again. But it didn't happen immediately. It took some time. But before it happened, Elijah already died, and people burying a dead man. They found some raiders coming, so again they scared. They know that the country is very open, there is no army there. So they put the guy there and they fled. So what does it mean now? What happened then? Now the man stood up. If the king, when the king knows about this, he will understand what? He will understand that the promise or the vision or what Elisha said is going to happen, is going to take place. Because now he now understood 100%. He was really a godly man, and what he said will come to pass. This is number one. Number two, you remember Elisha asked Elijah, told him, I would like to have double of your spirit, like double of the anointment you've got. And actually, yes, God gave him double, but wouldn't be double unless one more dead to rise again. What I mean is, if you read, and actually there are many studies on that, and you can get them easily on the internet. Elisha, what recorded about Elijah, 7 miracles. One of them is raising a dead person. If you read about Elisha, until he died, he had 13. They should be 14. It's double of Elijah. Elijah recorded 7. Now it should be 14 for Elisha. Elisha died, there were only 13, and also the 13 including only one dead that he raised when he was alive. So to make them double of Elijah must be 14, and means must raise 2 people. So he raised the second one after he passed away. So these are the 2, but both of them are true, by the way, like both interpretation. Definitely the king was 100% sure, this man told me that, and even after he died, like, yes, he is definitely proven he is the man of God. So whatever he told me will come to pass. After being so weak, it will happen that we'll defeat those people that we don't have that much power to defeat them. But with God with us, that definitely this will come to pass. And this is what actually happened. Plus, fulfilling the double anointing of Moses upon, of Elijah upon Elisha. All right. So this is the first point. This is this situation. So it was a very unique situation to reaffirm what's been said to the king, and also to affirm that he got double of the anointing of Elijah. That's it. So don't come 1200 years after that and tell me because of that we do this. No, bad luck. We've seen before the people that imitated taking the Ark of Covenant into the war, it didn't work with them. We saw also last episode when John and James decided to do what Elijah did, it didn't work, and even the Lord rebuked them. So if you come now and try to do this, bad luck. No, it will not. This means actually you're deceiving people when you do this. All right. So now come to the second part. How do you find out how this generation at that time understood it? Did they start venerating the bones of Elisha and building synagogues in his name or altars in his name or distributing some hanot about? No, it didn't happen, all this rubbish. No, it didn't. So let's go like that. So we finish now the meaning of it. Now we are in the part of how the generation understood it. Have we seen any of the Jews at that time till today? They have taken this situation as a justification or a call from God. Now, you have to venerate and you have to honor the relics of the saints that died, and actually their saints are acknowledged by the Holy Spirit in the Bible. No, don't say this. If it was like that, we read many times that the Jewish people sometimes they go astray and they go and even they speak or ask for healing, like we've seen previous episode, healing from one of the gods of Gentiles, right? Which is definitely wrong. If they realize that the bones of one of their own people can do the job, then they wouldn't go to the Gentiles' gods. But still, no, they did not consider Elisha as a person that can heal up to even raise dead. Right? Makes sense? Yeah, of course makes sense. Number two, as we seen the Jews at that time, even until today, they took the tomb of Elisha and they did it like a shrine, and every year they get a new clothing to wrap it, and they do veneration for it, and they have some hanut to be given to people, and they do glorification to him and all that stuff. Absolutely. And they make money out of it, by the way. No, of course not. We haven't seen this in that generation or even until today. Number three, did they do a demonstration of his positions and also make money out of this, like his clothing, his hair, if he had something on the top of his head as a Jew, like a kabah they said, or the stick that he for example leaning on, or for example the jar that he was using as a pot to drink or to cook in. No, I can't find this. Until the 5th century after Christ, all this rubbish starts coming. So we're talking more than 1200 years. Didn't happen. Next. Have we seen any of the Jews started distributing the sand or the dust of the tomb or the grave of Elisha as blessing to others? What a shame. Have we seen the Jews built an altar in his name to honor him? Of course not. Have we seen them build a synagogue, worship place after the name of Saint Elisha? Like when you say Church of Saint Mary, or the altar of Saint Peter, or the altar of Antonius. It's all idol worshipping. Jews didn't do this until today, to Elisha or Moses or any one of those ones. Number 6, have we seen any Jew in the Old Testament or the New Testament, like the apostles, seeking the intercession of Elisha, or the bones of Elisha, or the possessions of Elisha, for the healing of the sick, or asking the intercession for the forgiveness of the sins, as what happens in the traditional churches till now? We know that this happened in the 5th century, by the way, not before that. So 1200 years after the event, now they come say, because of this, now we have to honor and do the veneration and do the glorification and do all this stuff. This is not idol worship. This worship of dead bodies. As per above, or what we just mentioned now we can see, in fact, the traditional churches fell so down, not only worshipping the idols, like the statues and the icons as you've seen before, which but even they went even worse than that, far worse than the Jews, because the Jews, yes, they used in addition to Yahweh, to worship also and serve other gods, but they didn't go that far, that deep, that so much deep in the ditch to worship the bones of the dead or the possessions of the dead, which the traditional churches do at the moment. Now, they didn't go that far bad. So actually, the Jews, I would say, they are in a better position than the traditional churches today. All right? So that was the first thing. Second thing, I will go just touch quickly on it. Before I go into this one, by the way, those ones that said saints by Jewish people, actually those people are proven they are saints by the Bible itself, because they are mentioned there, like Moses, Abraham, Isaac, Jacob, Joseph, Elijah, Elisha, and so on. But not anyone, he is from the clergy or a monk or a nun, then just to say, he is or she is a saint, and give it a title, and even give that person a specialization of a certain intercession. This is he is in the intercessor of the impossibles. That's great. If you have one to be your impossible of the intercessor of the impossibles, so why do you need Jesus then, by the way? And by the way, those people that they call them saints, some of them actually are criminals. I will not mention any names at the moment. I will not, so because otherwise I will get some questions and I have to answer, but I don't like to go out. But the Jews saints are really proven, they are really saints. But yours, you made them on your own. You have your own measurement, which is not definitely is not biblical. You get some people actually, they were worshipping or promoting idol worshipping, and you consider them as saints, and you keep writing books about them and all that stuff. By the way, have we seen any of the Jews? They said the promise of Yahweh to Elisha the prophet, that if one celebrates the feast of Saint Elisha and offer some candles to him and offer some oblation to him, okay, what happens? His sins will be forgiven, as what happens now in the Coptic Orthodox Church. What a shame. Absolutely haven't seen. So in fact, the traditional churches, they went even worse and worse than the Jews when they were worshipping the Gentiles gods. Now, if I come to the second point, I leave this to you. The possessions of the saints, like their clothing, their hair, their shoes, their socks, their hankies, their stick, whatever, their tunias. Yeah. You think about this. Where about this? It is in the book of Acts, chapter 19. All right, it says, now God worked unusual miracles by the hands of Paul, so that even handkerchiefs or aprons were brought from his body to the sick, and the diseases left them, and the evil spirits went out of them. Acts 19. They take this as the foundation, the biblical reference to worship the possessions of the saints money, flood of money. Not plenty of money, it's a flood of money. Believe me. All right? Now, I'll give you some hints. So, this was happening with St. Paul? Yes. I'll get you two occasions that actually were not healed during St. Paul. 2 Timothy chapter 4, verse 20. Trophimus I have left in Miletus sick. Why, St. Paul? Have you run out of hankies? No. The Lord doesn't want it to happen. The Lord wants this to happen. When you get the gift, it is not for you. Could be by you, through you, for someone at a certain time for a certain purpose. After a while, it is not working now. After a while, it could work again. Give you a second one. No longer drink only water. No longer drink only water, but use a little wine for your stomach's sake and your frequent infirmities. 1 Timothy chapter 5, verse 23. This is a recommendation from Paul to his beloved disciple Timothy. Again, has St. Paul run out of aprons? Didn't he have a chance to pray on some water and give it to him? So whatever mentioned in the book of Acts chapter 19 doesn't mean that every case was healed. If you have the gift, it doesn't mean you finish medicine. You are a doctor. This is your title until you pass away or the Lord comes before that. But in gifts, you cannot say, yes, I am like the healer of cancer. No, many cases will not. Some cases will. It's you're serving the will of God, not your own will. If the Lord uses your hand, your voice, even to pray with someone over the phone and they get healed, it's okay. Your hands, it's okay. Your apron, that's fine. Your tie, it's okay. Assuming that, that's it. So you cannot say, because it is there, now you put a dogma on this. When you do this, you are deceiving people and you worship idols, like the bones of those people and so on. Now I'll put them in big trouble, those tradition people. In the book of Acts chapter 5, it says, so that they brought the sick out into the streets and laid them on beds and couches, that at least the shadow of Peter passing by might fall on some of them. So, and they get sick. If they are sick, they get they get healed. How will you now fix this to me? Now the bones, you get bones. The positions, you get positions. Now, if it is because this is actually in the same topic and same thing. The shadow of Peter was healing the sick. How will you fix this now? Will you get some shadows from somewhere, put in some bottles or vessels, or you will have a statue for Sayyidna, Sayyidkum, not Sayyidna, not me, not for my. I don't believe in someone to call him Sayyidna. You will get a statue for him, spotlight behind him, and ask people to go through the shadow. You should do this, by the way. Yeah, it is in the Bible. If I do it, and you get plenty of money. Believe me, if they do it, people will believe it. People now are totally blinded. It's been there around for a long time now, and people are fascinated with all this fairy tales stuff. Especially this is Anba whoever or Ummina whoever, put a statue, spotlight, and go through her shadow or his shadow. Why? It's in the Bible. All right. So I wish if you can study some of the history of the church in the first 5 centuries, and you'll find that all these evil stuff came to the church in the 5th century, not before that. So talking 5th century, Elisha was 700 before Christ, so it took about 1200 years. So the first generation didn't understand. The second 1200 years nobody understood it until you come in the 5th century after Christ and tell me it isn't the Bible, and all those people before you were blind. St. Peter didn't understand it. St. Mary didn't understand it. St. Paul didn't understand it. Oh, St. John, Luke didn't understand all this until whoever came and said that. All right, dear brothers and sisters, I hope that those 2 episodes were really like eye-opening to you. I hope that you share this episode with others. Give it a like if you think it's worth it. And if you haven't subscribed to the channel, please do. And unless the Lord comes, we'll meet again in another episode. May the Lord bless you all. سلام المسيح وكن معكم.